Hi my friend, it's Pat Sloan here. It is our sweater weather day to check in to see how we're doing on the quilt from this book. So this is the Sweater Weather book by Susan Aki, and we are, the royal we, a bunch of us are making the Halloweenish in different colors. Some are using more like, let's say, red. I could have done red rectangles and then different corner squares, but I'm doing mine more like Susan's, but with not Halloween cornerstones. I'm using my Promise Me fabric, the black, one of the black prints from Promise Me, this one, and then from the Sleepover I'm using this gorgeous blue. So those are the two that I'm doing. So let me tell you where I am. These are, every block I have now is up there. So they have made so far is up there. And I'm pretty happy with that progress. We're almost here at the end of November, which is pretty good. This is, I think I have one more along the horizontal. So I did these in sets of 3x2 or 2x3, however you like to think about it. I did these, and when I'm setting them across now, I just need two more. And that is excellent, because what that allows me to do now is when I get, these are singles. See, these are single ones. So when I get all of the 2x3s done, what I can do is before I sew them, I can shift them around. So let's say I have this one here, but I really need to have a spacer like somewhere in here, maybe, so maybe I will have, something like this where I feel like I need that space over there to break up, either the pattern or to break up the colors. Then I can move things around. Since I have some that have a little bit of pink in them, like these, then I want to be sure those are kind of moved around and they're not all lumped together, and I don't have all of maybe the same fabric lumped together, because I have repeats. I have repeats in here because what I was trying to do was actually find some of my ones that were more basic, and if I could use them up, maybe make 5 or 6 rectangles out of them to get those pieces used up. So there are some repeats in here, and I don't want to clump those all together. So this is so perfect that I'll have 2 singles for each row that I can, shift around, either leave it on the end, or if I need to shift everything and shove it further down. Where am I at? So I do have all of these sewn. Look at this. So what I'm doing is sewing a black corner, then the other black corner, the blue corner, the other blue corner. And so all 4 corners are sewn on these, and a little smaller one, all 4 corners are sewn on these. So this is awesome. That means I'll cut these apart, I'll press them open and trim them so that they look like this. And they'll be ready then to sew into 2x3 units. And I need a little variety because as I was cutting them, same fabrics tend to be stacked together like they do. And I thought it's just not worth it for me to go and shuffle that all around so that they're not together. I will just sew them and then shuffle things as we go along. Then we'll adjust it then. So I put them into groups. So I have groups that I can kind of run through to get to this stage. So I'll run through the next set. But before I do these, putting the squares on the corners, I will get all of these sewn into 2x3s. Because I find it less boring that way. If I were to sew all of these and then have all of this to sew into the 2x3s, that just feels boring. I get tired of sewing the squares on. So if I do them in chunks, I think it's like 20 at a time. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, there's 4 of these. I think there's 20 in each. When all those rectangles are done, there is a whole set of squares that goes around the outside, and most of these have to have 2 little squares sewn on them. So that's another thing that has to happen. But I will get the whole middle part done first. And I'm going to try to work on it pretty aggressively, but I also want to do the little presents from the Jolly Box to make my little banner. So these are also a higher priority, because otherwise I won't get to enjoy it for Christmas at all, will I? Okay, I want to encourage you to work on your hometown charms. Like, tomorrow I'm going to announce the next Block Wednesday, but a lot of you have gotten all your blocks. You've got the middle done. Maybe you don't have a border on it yet, but I want to show you a whole group of them so that you can be encouraged to get to yours to the final state. So let's take a look at what people have shared on my community group, Quilt Along with Pat Sloan, at Facebook. Adrienne did some clever things with her fabric. Look at the pineapple at the top. She put in a text piece from like a text panel. That looks so good. Anne has delightful fabric. I want to see this fabric up close. I'm sure I've seen it before. I see some owls on the right hand side, on the two bottom blocks on the right. Love that fussy cutting of the pineapple. Bonnie's is blue, everything blue, and a green tree. Looks amazing. Just gorgeous. She said she's got to get some more fabric for the bottom border. Carol's got her quilt hung in her studio space, so that looks amazing. I love it. Love the spotlights on it. Cheryl's is warm and cozy. I love how she did kind of that burgundy with the tan and the dark green, and then look at the tree split, how it's split with the colors. It's a light green and the dark. That is really effective. Debbie's is gorgeous. It looks like we're at the beach. This is hometown at the beach. It's so pretty watery colored fabrics. Diana's is wonderful. I love how she put some realistic fabrics in there. You can see the tree in the middle with the birch bark on the trunk. Oh my goodness. And the leaf fabric, that is so cool. So fun. Where do you buy that fabric for the birch tree? Maybe she did something to fix it up. It looks really good. This is Doe's, and I love it. The border just makes the whole quilt sing. That tan and blue and cream and navy, just gorgeous. Gorgeous fabric combination. Heather wrote that you can see it in the pineapple and then the border around the house. This was a St. Louis fabric that came out probably for a shop hop, and I think she said her aunt gave her the fabric, and then she used that St. Louis fabric in a lot of the blocks, which now that you know what you're looking for, you can see it. Jan's is so cool. I love that pink-red combo. It's got the pinks in there. Super cute pineapple. I just need a whole quilt of those little chubby pineapples. All of yours inspire me. So Kathleen switched her pineapple out for a wreath. Look at that. I love it. The wreath is so cute. It has a really beautiful bow on it too. Kim's is gorgeous. She has a lot of different fabrics in hers, and it works so well. It's all tied together so beautifully, and it is gorgeous. Kay used some of my birdsong. So you can see the birdsong fabric, like look at the center at the top left block around the border of the house. And then she made a house that I think she wrote is like her own home. So that is so cool. Laura's is pink and black, and I love the combination. It has some paisleys in there, at least maybe it's not, maybe it's a word text, I can't tell. But I love it. The stripe for the bark of the trees. So good. Oh, the pineapple's really good too. Oh, that would make a whole quilt of pineapples. I'm pineapple obsessed. Linda's is beautiful. That border just makes the whole quilt. It is so perfect. And she's got some of that fabric within the quilt, so I think it was planned. You can see it in the center of some of the blocks. This is Melissa, our ambassador, and she did this stone fabric. Look at like rock, like river rocks around the house, and then brick for the house, and same rocks for the chimney. And then she changed in and put the paper hat block. I love it, Melissa. Nancy's is gorgeous. Great checkerboard. That red checkerboard looks so good with her color combination with the yellows, and then there's a beautiful sunflower pineapple on hers. Pamela's, she's progressing. She hasn't quite sewn this together, but I wanted to show it to you because it is gorgeous. I loved her. I love the fabric she used for her checkerboard sashing. It looks like a wood paneling or a wood print. I see it on the trunk of some of the trees as well. So I wanted you to see that as she's working on it. Paula's is so fun. Look at the fabric on the pineapple, the top center, and then you can see how she used this same crazy fabric. It is so cool in everywhere, like all in the sashings, in many of the blocks, if not all the blocks, have a little bit of it. It just is so cool. So cool. Teresa's looks done. Looks like it has binding on it. That is fantastic. I love this red and green that she used. It looks like, I don't know if that's a nod to a Christmas print. It looks like a little bit of holly in some of it, but yeah, it is so good. Tracy, she's outside in the little bit of wind, sharing her quilt with us. I love this color combination, that teal and peach and terracotta, just gorgeous. Great border. I see a fox. You see the fox? Oh, there's 2, 3. Oh, like a lot of the centers. Okay, keep looking. Oh, they're all over. Oh, that's so fun. They're really good. Okay, so we'll wrap it up with Suzanne, another one of our ambassadors, and here hers is all finished and quilted. Suzanne is a long armor, and you can see the quilting down towards the bottom. But when she was making this, she said that she had somebody in mind to give it to, and so as she was doing the blocks, she was thinking about the meaning each one had that was significant to the people she's giving this to, and then she was telling us about it. The border fabric she's had for a little while, and she used practically all of it, so got to use it all up. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing. And be sure to read and like and comment on people's posts, because that's what makes a community wonderful. When you give a little feedback to others and they give feedback to you, it is just so wonderful to have that place to share. All right, the other day I did some Q&As for my birthday, and there was way more than I could do, so I thought, well, I will grab a few more and do a few more today because they were fun. They had fun ones. Okay, so several people wanted to know, where do I get my clothing, basically. And you know, it varies, but I do buy tops at Kohl's, at Chico's, at Amazon, at Coldwater Creek, and then I do have clothing from when I traveled and taught on the road, and some of those were purchased on travel, so it just varies, but that's where they come from, a variety of places, and I like to have, you know, comfy tops, but they're not expensive, you know, so fun stuff. Okay, so some of these are very introspective, and you might find out I'm, you know, maybe don't have deep answers for quilt stuff, but let's see where we go with this. So Diana says, what is the name of the first quilt block that made you feel like you just had to know how to make it? Gosh, I don't really know that. I don't really have one that I'm like, I need to understand how to make that quilt block. When I first started learning, my first 5 classes I took like a beginner class, and then I basically took whatever the teacher taught next. 2 of those were a double wedding ring, all by hand using cardboard templates, and then a mariner's compass that I showed you the other day, which was drafting your own mariner's compass and then piecing it and all of that. So I got all of these really deep technical skills about how block construction works, like right out of the gate, like right away. I knew, and this teacher was like that. She enjoyed that part of it, so she enjoyed teaching it, and I enjoyed learning it. So I really don't have blocks that I look at and go like, oh, you know, I might have a quilt that I look at and I go, oh, I really want to make that. That's what we do here all the time. But an individual block, I can't think of any. There probably was one at some point, but it didn't stick in my head. So Pat asked, this is a good question. This is a very interesting question because it's very unique to you as an individual, the answer. So Pat said, is it better to make a few spectacular show-stopping quilts with hand applique, embroidery, difficult patterns, or is it better to make many of the same super stash busting easy quilts? I get a time and a place for all. Yeah, so that is such a personal question. I mean, to you as an individual, what kind of quilts do you like to make? Do you like to make heavily detailed quilts? If you've been quilting a while, you have probably massively changed what you like to do. I used to do a lot of applique. Now I prefer to do a lot of piecing. I have friends that did a lot of quick quilts, and now they do a lot of long, more detail-oriented quilts with a lot of handwork in them, and that's the part they enjoy. They don't really want to piece things. I know people who only like to do the quilting part. Like, they don't even like to piece the tops. They just want to get into the quilting. So it's really what is your passion and interest and what makes you happy. So it doesn't really have anything to do with me and what I like to do. Mine changes. You know, I used to have, and I still have sort of on my bucket list, to make a Baltimore album quilt, which is a fancy applique quilt. But right now that doesn't interest me. About 10 years ago, I would have, if I had a little bit more time, I probably would have dived in. But right now it doesn't. So I want to do it still, but not right now. So maybe down the road. Monica asked about the stands that I often use here to hang my quilt. There's all kinds of stands out there. I'll pop one up here. The link to it is in the description box below, and I'll put it in the first comment. These are lighting stands. You know, they're all kinds of stands like this are made now, and this is a decent one. So there you go. Vicki wanted to know, where do I keep all my Starbucks gift cards? You know, she knows people that, you know, save them in a special little package or whatever. I'm a digital girl, totally digital. So I load them all into my digital account and I pay with my phone. So yeah, that's where they go. And I save a lot of the really special ones. I just have saved them in a drawer because I think they're kind of cool. And I could reactivate them and use them. I do have one card that I use. I have one physical card. And so I load the stuff onto the physical card digitally. Celeste says, okay, this is one of these introspective ones. So Celeste says, in our lives, we have lots of opportunities to ponder on who, what, or places that changed our lives. She tells me a little bit about what changed her life, and she goes, do I have one of those things, a person, a place that influenced my life for the better? And this is where I'm not a super introspective person. So one of the things might be looking back, having the opportunity to have lived in Europe, that as a child, because I wasn't an adult, so you don't see things and do things and interact the same way as a child and a teenager in a foreign country than you do as an adult. But I think it did ultimately change how and I view things and how I see my communities and how I like my communities. I like very international communities where people are from all different places and they speak different languages and they have different cultural backgrounds. That makes me thrive. I like that type of environment. My mother-in-law was very inspiring. She was a businesswoman. She was a banker. She did a lot to help small businesses in her community, and that was very inspirational. Just, you know, I could talk business with my mother-in-law, which was really neat. I enjoyed hearing about her banking business, and she enjoyed asking me about what I did in my project management, and then when we started this business as a design business. So I would say those are the kind of, you know, sort of life things. Let's see. And then Denise had kind of a, no, it wasn't Denise. Oh, somebody else. Oh, here, Lori. This is kind of a follow-up. So Lori wanted to know, was there one person that made a huge impact? And I would say no. And I think that's probably true for a lot of people. A lot of people, you have lots of people who come into your lives at different points, and they might inspire or help you or do something for that point where you're at, and then you move along in life and you have something else going on. So I could give you one example of that. Nancy Crow and probably also Gwen Marston, although I didn't talk about that as much. These two people, but particularly Nancy Crow. I was at a point where I was trying to find quilts that were not traditional looking, and I didn't know anybody that made them. And Nancy was coming in. Nancy Crow is a contemporary quilt maker, and she was coming to do a talk and some workshops. So I signed up, even though I only had a couple of years experience, and her work was incredibly different than than what everybody else was doing. And basically it opened the doors for me and gave me a set of tools and tool sets to work with so that I could create quilts in an entirely different way. And basically I went to her classes as one kind of quilter and came out another. And that was quite expanded my abilities, my quilt abilities. I didn't stay within that look, but I used it a lot through what I do. So Denise wanted to know how much do I walk, because I talk about walking to the Starbucks. So the Plaza is just a couple blocks from my house that has the Giant and restaurants, and the Giant's the grocery store, sorry. It has a grocery store and restaurants, and there's an office building which is the doctor's in, and Starbucks is there. And I try to walk the neighborhood as well. I mean, I would love to walk 3 times a day, and sometimes I do walk 3 times a day, but once it gets cold, if I can manage once or twice for a 30-minute walk, I feel like that's okay, but I would really prefer like a 30-40 minute walk and then maybe 2 20-minute walks during the day. That feeds my soul. Okay, let me see, how much time do I have? Okay, let me do one more. Let me just do 2 more, and then there's a few other ones on here. I'll save them and do another time. See if there's some other ones that I can collect up. Okay, so Lori wants to know, how tall am I? And that kind of struck me as like, well, if you've never met me, you don't actually know, because you don't have anything to judge me against standing here in the room. So I'm 5'4". I've probably shrunk maybe, but I don't know, but I'm 5'4". So that's what I am. And then Kathy asked, chocolate or coffee? Both. You don't have to pick. You can have both. Coffee, chocolates, chocolate, coffee. Yeah, either way, or together or separate. All of them. Okay, my friend. Remember, my books are still on sale through the end of the month. That's today and tomorrow. So if you didn't pick up Holiday Hoopla, which we're going to do a sew-along in 2023, and it's going to be broken into some mini sew-alongs, so it's going to be kind of fun. It'll be different. So you want to be sure you get your book. If you hadn't wanted this sweater weather book, you can get that one too. Okay, so I love you. Mwah. Thank you for being here in the Sloan Zone. I will see you online.